Hello and welcome to this video, and on this video I will be talking about this prog, classical, rock, jazz fusion anomaly known as Variations, one of the strangest albums to come out of the progressive rock stroke jazz rock genre. An album that for many does not make you think of progressive rock or jazz rock. An album that came out in 1978 when apparently progressive rock and jazz rock fusion had been done to death by punk. And yet we had this album coming out and reaching #2 in the album charts and being a huge success. And what a weird album to be a success. And it goes alongside a couple of other things that were happening in the UK at that time, most notably War of the Worlds by Jeff Wayne and Sky, all exploring that area, albeit very commercially, between rock music, classical music and jazz. Something that had begun in the UK back in the 1960s. So what is this album? This album is an album under the name of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Andrew Lloyd Webber is perhaps the richest musician on the planet. I think he was the first musician to become a billionaire, and he did that by creating various hit musicals that have gone on to become films, things like Starlight Express and Cats. If anyone's seen the new computerized version of Cats, you'll know exactly what area you're in. This is not the most likely person to have created what I think is the progressive rock stroke jazz rock classic, but he did, and it's this album, and this album is monumental. So Andrew Lloyd Webber has a brother called Julian Lloyd Webber, who is a very good classical cellist. Their paths had gone two different routes, with Julian Lloyd Webber remaining in the classical world, whilst Andrew Lloyd Webber went and dipped his toe in the world of musicals, writing Jesus Christ Superstar and a whole host of other incredible successes that netted him through copyright, I suppose, and royalties, a lot of money. By the time he got to 1978, he'd had his big hit Evita, and I can remember watching David Essex on Top of the Pops as a very young man, as I became interested in music, pretending to be Che Guevara and singing some song. I'm being very bemused by all of it. Anyway, if my memory serves me correctly. So, by 1978, he was already very, very successful. Andrew Lloyd Webber and Julian Lloyd Webber were both fans of Leyton Orient Football Club, and they placed a bet. And if Andrew Lloyd Webber lost the bet, he promised that he would write a piece for Julian Lloyd Webber, who was probably significantly less well off to his brother. So you can see his brother go, "Oh, can't you write me something now? You've done it, you know, that'll be really successful." And Andrew Lloyd Webber lost the bet, so he had to write this piece. And what this is a whole album based upon one melody, one tune by Paganini, the virtuoso violin player, and it is the theme of the Caprice in A minor, number 24. So what Andrew Lloyd Webber does is he writes an album worth of variations on that theme. So this whole album, which is instrumental, is based upon a theme by Paganini. And he takes this theme and he pushes it through a whole bunch of different genres, including popular music genres, progressive rock music genres, disco and jazz rock, and in some places some very fierce Mahavishnu like jazz rock fusion. To do this, he went to a ready-made band. He went to Colosseum 2. Now, Colosseum 2 was a band formed by John Heisman. John Heisman is a drummer that emerged in the 60s in the UK. He's a very, very important rock drummer. He came out at the same time as Cream and Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd. And he formed a what has been called a progressive rock band called Colosseum in 1968. But Colosseum are actually a very early example of a sort of jazz rock fusion. He then goes on to form the Tempest, and then in the mid-70s, around about 74, 75, he reforms Colosseum as Colosseum 2. And the genius of this band is he pulls in on guitar the virtuoso rock guitarist Gary Moore. This is a move that paid off so well for Billy Cobham on the album Spectrum, and it pays off on with Colosseum 2, because Gary Moore, who is a product of the blues, of rock guitar, but also a smidgen of jazz rock. You can tell he's a fan of John McLaughlin and Al Di Meola, and especially Jeff Beck. And so, but he brings in a heaviness. I mean, this is a guy that also was playing in bands like Thin Lizzy. That's the genius move with Colosseum 2. There's also John Mole on bass on here. And then he's also got Rod Argent, the guy behind Argent, on keyboards. We've got Barbara Thompson, who was John Heisman's wife. And Barbara Thompson had a fusion band in the 70s called Paraphernalia, another very important British jazz fusion band. And of course, Julian Lloyd Webber on cello. This is the album that they made. And that cover really sums up what's going on as we see the cello with the electric thing in and all the amps, and they got sunglasses on. That's the original painting on the back. All right. If I open it up, this is an original copy, I think, because it's got the inner sleeve, which contains the sort of, what is this? This is, I think, all the works that have come out of this Paganini piece, I think. And so what he's stating is that he's doing something that people have done through music history, which is take these caprices by Paganini and create variations upon them. I think that's what the point he's making there. I hadn't really thought that one out before I showed you that. But on the other side, we got some great photos of the musicians involved, and it's the musicians that make this album so special. So we've got Rod Argent at the top, there we go. Then we've got Don Airey there. Don Airey's, I didn't mention him, he's a keyboardist that went on to join Rainbow, and then I think he was in with the White Snake, and he's currently the keyboardist with Deep Purple. He also played keyboards on Gary Moore's first solo album, which is called Back on the Streets, which contains some pretty brutal fusion, and he plays some pretty brutal Moog soloing in the style of Jan Hammer. If anyone's seen the new Deep Purple album, it's absolutely wonderful. I will review it at some point. I should have done it when it came out. But they brought a single out called Lazy Sod, and there's some incredible organ work from Don Airey. He really is one of the great keyboardists. There's the wonderful John Heisman, one of the great rock drummers, jazz fusion drummers of all time. The lovely Barbara Thompson, she is, and they both died recently, and it's quite sad. Gary Moore there with his very long hair in the middle, and then John Mole on bass. And of course, we've got the little face of Andrew Lloyd Webber there, and his brother Julian looking a little bit younger. Anyway, there's if you really aren't convinced that this is an absolute masterpiece, there is a track on here which is, I think it's on side 2, and it's either variation 17 or variation 8. It's quite short. And the band launched into a jazz fusion riff in 7, and Gary Moore just piles in. Right, so a couple of things I want to say about this album before I go. It's had 2 very important influences on culture. This is something that we don't get from every single jazz, rock and fusion album, is where this actually starts to impinge on mainstream culture. I didn't watch Strictly Come Dancing last night here in the UK, but I did watch it on iPlayer because I realised that Toyah Willcox, the great, sort of a post-punk queen of punk music that emerged in the early 80s, was on there doing a dance to something from The Little Mermaid. You know, I think she was playing the part of the evil, that evil Ursula. You know the one. You know that one, Ursula. Out of the, it's the character that Eddie Izzard is now basing himself on, or herself on. Now she's called something else. I don't know whether she's calling him herself Ursula. I don't know, but there seems to be a similarity there that I think that no one else has drawn attention to, and I have. Thus, probably, like the middle-aged man that I am, stomping my way over into a whole area of political incorrectness accidentally, just because I'm saying whatever's coming to my mind. Anyway, there she was doing her Ursula with her big tentacles and all that bit. You probably think, what the hell? If you're outside the UK now, you go, what the hell is he talking about? But Toyah Willcox is married to the great Robert Fripp, the guitarist of King Crimson, and a prog rock legend. And he was in the audience, and he was getting quite shouty, and he was booing when one of the blokes was booing, and the bloke said to him something like, can you sit down, gentlemen in the audience? And then someone said, oh, is that your husband? That's Toyah Willcox's husband. And then he said, oh, is that your husband? And I felt like this bloke has got no idea who he's talking to. And this is the conjunction. I love these conjunctions. I'm going to have to do the top 10 greatest prog and jazz fusion conjunctions with mainstream culture, right? What a great title. That'll bring them all in, won't it? Anyway, this album is one of those that this would definitely be on the list. This went into number 2 in the UK charts. It sold 1 million copies, right? And it is basically an instrumental prog fusion album. Okay, now its impact on culture does not stop there. Anyone who lives in the UK will instantly know the main caprice off this, with that sort of iconic disco bass line that goes boom ding boom ding boom ding boom ding boom ding boom ding boom da, 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 da. That theme was used on our arts program that ITV put out with Melvin Bragg on a Sunday evening called the South Bank Show, and Fusion fans may want to go and explore the 2 South Bank documentaries, which I'm pretty sure on YouTube, the one that they did on Weather Report and the one they did on Shakti, John McLaughlin. They were 2 things that I saw as a very young kid that influenced me, and this is what I mean. But all the time I was watching that, I never quite put it together. Even though this has been such a big hit record, I never put together that I was listening to John Heisman and Gary Moore every single week. But not only was it the theme to the South Bank Show, another variation of this was used for the theme to the Book Tower, the children's ITV programme, with the great Tom Baker as the storyteller. Tom Baker, who is perhaps with John Pertwee vying to be the greatest Doctor Who of all time. Not that I'm a fan of Doctor Who. I hate Doctor Who, in fact, and that's probably quite a surprise, because most English, British cultural things I like, but I hate Doctor Who. I just absolutely hate Doctor Who. And this album, for me, personifies that. 1978, I'm 10 years old, right? It's like everything's all gone punk. You're going downtown, everyone's got the spiky hair, and, I was putting the telly on, it's Blake Seven, it's Doctor Who, it's a whole bunch of things, watching the Generation Game, South Bank Show. Come on, kids, it's time to go to bed, you've got school tomorrow. Oh, can't I stop watching South Bank Show? You don't want to watch a documentary on Rudolf Nureyev. Now you get off to bed. I don't know whether they might have something that's not for the kids. Oh, please, I like the theme tune. No, you don't like the theme tune. You like all that heavy rock and heavy metal and weird music. No, I don't. I like this one too. It's Variations. Was it Variations? Yes, Mom, you bought that album in 1978, did you? This is the effect on culture, but it also explains the direct influence on me as a young kid in 1978. That's the year that I started to get interested in music, and I was picking up things. Now, I never had this album. I didn't go and buy it. I didn't pick up this album till around about 1982, but I heard this. I heard War of the Worlds. I heard Sky. These things were there. They were around and about. They were. my ears were picking them up, you know. So then when I discovered like the new wave of British heavy metal, I was trying to find where I could find that. I was going towards that all the time. It was a feature of British culture in the late 70s. Every single, you know, TV theme seemed to be drawing upon some sort of a, you know, British version of the Shaft theme, you know, which I'm thinking of The Professionals, for example, or The Sweeney, or all these different programs, or the lovely reggae of Bergerac. I'm going to have to do a video on it. I'm straying into a whole bunch of incredible British music TV themes. Now, I can tell you a lot about this, and it's a big area of study and something that I know a little bit about. But I'm straying out the realms of this video, really. I've been filming some videos today. I'm trying to do regular videos on albums. I'll just come on and chat about the albums. I'm not trying to prepare too much. I'm just going to pick an album up that I like and talk about it, and they'll be short, not like an hour long like my normal video, just sort of 15 minutes. So I'm at the end of this video now. I've done my bit. I've done a few today. 2 of them haven't gone very well. This one, I thought, come on, get your act together and do it properly. And I've sat down and I think I've delivered all the information I wanted to say. You know, I've got no notes. I've pulled it all out of my head. A little bit of, you know, looking up stuff on the back of the album just to get it right. But I felt like I've done a good job. And then towards the end of the video, I go off on another tangent, don't I? Another tangent, explore all these other ideas, open up these other areas of discussion. Now, you know, there's a lot of viewers on this channel that don't come from the UK, and a lot of my sort of English references I don't think they get. But I might explore them anyway, and just sod the views. Sod the views. Do what you want to do in your heart. Stop worrying about views all the time. It's true when you get to YouTube at a certain level. I want the views. You know, I'm looking, it's a long way off, but I'm looking at 100,000. You know, at some point in the future, I might be even greyer than I am now. But in some point in the future, you're going to click on this, and behind me will be one of those silver things that you get from YouTube that all the other good YouTubers have. Right? It will be in the background, and I will be happy. But there's only one way to get there, and that's for you to subscribe. Now, if everybody who's watching this subscribe to the channel, right, I would get there overnight. But you don't, do you? Well, some of you do. But the ones that don't, I'm talking to you lot now. So can you stick a subscription on my channel for me, please? It's not going to hurt you. It's like, you know, it's like, where else are you going to get this level of music critique? Who else does this on the internet? I'll tell you who else does it. The Prog Corner, Sea of Tranquility, Rick Beato, Adam Neely. No. They're all too professional. They all too know what they're talking about. No. If you want this sort of a critique, you got to come here, haven't you? You're not going to get this from anywhere else, are you? Think about it. So you may as well subscribe, because there's nobody else doing this sort of rubbish, is there? I have cornered the market in a sort of middle-age, shaking your fist to the sky in a sort of Don Quixote style way, whinging about how great, you know, prog and jazz fusion was in the 70s and how rubbish everything else is. But from the English perspective, and, you know, drawing together sort of influences from Monty Python and Fawlty Towers and The Office and various other comedians like Stuart Lee and all my favourite comedians out there. And I bring all that in as well. Can't help it. I don't mean to do it. You think this is like clever? It's not clever. I can't help but talk like this. This is the way I talk. I talk like this. That's how I talk, you know. That's how I explain things to people, is in this way. I can't help it. I'm from the West Midlands, you know, and I'm a drummer. And that's what you get. You know, that's it. The others don't do this. The others have it all properly worked out. When they go wrong, they press the button and start again. I really tried to get... I've nailed this one early on. If you're still watching now. What? I'm filming a video. Can you shut the door? I'll be done in a minute. I'll go in a minute. Shut the door, because this is going to be on YouTube. Shut the door now. Go and shut the door. Shut the door. Shut the door. Shut the door. Go away. Yeah. Shut the door and go away so I can finish this video off. You see what I'm dealing with? Can you see what I'm dealing with? You know, it's like I'm not just here just making videos for you lot. I've got things to do, people to drive people bloody places and go and get this from the shops and then run and do this stuff. Well, I don't know, life just gets on in you, especially my day off today. You know, and then I realised I got to shoot a bunch of these little videos because they've got to be ready for next week. So I thought I'd do that, and I've had interruptions all morning. And these, unlike the last ones I did, that were quite concise, and I did it. It's been like it's almost like a diary of my exploration of my incompetence and the trappings and frustrations of being a middle-aged bloke with teenage kids, trying to make it as an influencer. God. But we're all the same boat, aren't we? There's no point in moaning about what you haven't got. The secret of life is to look for what you have got and go to make that better. If you do that, you'll have a good life. If you're bemoaning the things that do not exist, then you're doing something wrong. And there's a little bit of wisdom at the end. And that's what other YouTubers would never do on a video about Andrew Lloyd Webber's variations. You wouldn't get a bit of wisdom like that at the end, would you? So I've got to go and do my duty as a dad now. So I will go and do that. Like and subscribe. If you want to know more or support me more or see more or do more, then you can go over to my Patreon. I also have a Patreon shop now. Go and have a look at that. There's some cool stuff there. And you can, buy it off me. I'll make a little bit more money, which is what it's all about, really, isn't it? And then if you would want to support me financially and give me a little bit of a tip for making such excellent, if slightly wayward videos topic-wise, then you can do that by going over to my PayPal tip jar. I'm going to stop here today. I'm not on full form today. I'm not on full form, but I've done my best. That's what you get. See you all. Bye.